paranormal researcher and I got called into a small town for its series of unexplainable events. Here are a few of my cases. Case 28, the monster in the closet. One of the first cases I worked on was a mother calling in about her son, who claimed there to be a monster in his closet. Typical childhood shit. But given the town we were in, I did not find it implausible. I headed down a dirt road to a big house on the outskirts of the town. The house lay somewhat in the desert with cacti sprawling the yard. That's where I met up with the woman, an older lady with blonde hair that was on the verge of turning gray and night-black eyes. "He's upstairs now, ranting about the monster in the closet," she sighed, her southern drawl clear. I wouldn't have amounted it to nothing if it weren't for the fact that it broke down the door when I locked the closet to stop all his crying. "Are you sure it wasn't the boy?" I asked, heading inside. "Oh, trust me, son, no boy could do that." I was welcomed with an ashy scent and headed up the marvelous wooden stairs to the upstairs bedroom. There was a boy in there, tucked in the corner of his bed, staring at the closet with wide eyes. And well, the walk-in closet, it was in tatters. Wood splinters laid scattered across the floor, and the hinges were bent out of place, as if it were mauled by a bear. "You mind telling me what you saw?" I asked the kid, and he nodded. It all started a week ago when I suddenly woke up to a red door." "A red door?" I questioned. "The boy says he saw a red door appear in the middle of his room one night, just standing there." The boy's mother appeared behind me, gesturing to the center of his room. "And that since then a monster's been living in his damn closet." "It's true," the boy let out, reaching to grab my hand. "That monster walked out of the red door and into my closet, and then boom! The red door disappeared." "It disappeared?" I asked with uncertainty as I walked towards the now doorless closet. "Strange, huh?" his mother answered. "Strange indeed," I said, looking at the symbol of a serpent ingrained into the boy's closet. I went outside to grab some of my tools, a carving knife embellished with ancient powers and a flamethrower in case whatever was in that boy's closet decided to attack. Although strong and concealed, the demon would be easy to deal with. All I had to do was remove that symbol from the boy's wall and destroy it before the creature came out to wreak havoc. But that is when I heard the boy scream. I slammed my car door shut and rushed into the house and up the stairs, flamethrower in hand. When I got to the boy's room, the mother stood at the door, screaming for me to help. I looked inside and saw the boy being dragged by a creature into his closet, where instead of the once broken and open doorway, laid a door, a red door. The monster was tall and lanky with a gray body that was covered in tough skin. It looked back at me and let out a scream, opening its mouth to reveal 3 rows of sharp teeth. Its eyes glowed red, and there was no hair on its pale body. I lifted my flamethrower but could not fire as the creature held the boy, so I watched in horror as the creature threw the red door open and threw the boy inside. "No!" The boy's mother screamed, running towards the creature, but the thing stared at her as it entered the door, smiling, before closing the door shut, and once it did, the door disappeared. The boy's mother screamed and ran towards where the door once stood, but it was far too late. The boy was gone. As his mother cried, I went to the closet's wall and removed the symbol with my knife, before patting her once on the back and heading home. Case 78, the Reflected Forest. There's a trail with a sort of urban legend in Dustbourne nicknamed the Reflected Forest, as it is said if you walk the trail backwards, you will see a carbon copy of yourself on the other opposite side of the trail across the lake. There was a case of a man who supposedly completed this ritual, walking backwards until he met up with his counterpart, and he went on to go home and murder his entire family. When I interrogated him, all he said was, "It all starts at the door." Local teens often take part in this ritual and swear to see their reflection walking on the other side of the lake, but nobody else has been recorded in completing the ritual. This case was unsolved as it is more of a phenomenon. There is no solution. Case 128, the Hands in Dustbourne Lake. There's a second, larger lake near the center of Dustbourne where locals often swim and fish, although fishing and swimming in the lake has become less common. This is because of the rumors of hands that appear from the lake bottom that stretch out impossibly far to grab their victims. Many strange drownings occurred in the lake, and it was even blocked off to the public for a couple of weeks to try to find a solution. Our results. We noticed that randomly, the long seaweed that grew in patches in the lake would contort and grow into long arms, reaching out for physical food like the arms of a person. Dozens of human bones were dug up underneath the seaweed, with no bodies to be seen, as if the plants absorbed its victims and only left their bones. Our solution: to cut the plants every other month, stopping them from being much of a threat. Case 137, the Tree Men. A park ranger called me one afternoon to tell me about the string of reports made by campers and hikers in the area. "So what's the issue?" I asked. "Well, nothing serious as of yet, but I've had multiple hikers telling me about some sort of tree monster in the forest." "Tree monster?" I tried to hide my doubt. "I know how it sounds, but yes. Multiple people have witnessed seeing a tree. A normal one in these woods, you know. Tall and slender, nothing off-putting. But when they take their eyes off it, it would be in a different spot or gone completely." "Are you sure they weren't just imagining it?" I reasoned. "Well, I would be if I didn't get told the same story hundreds of times." He exaggerated. "Could just be another legend around here," I said. "That's what I thought too until I saw something strange myself," he started. "It was 2 days ago. I was doing my normal rounds when I noticed a clearing in the woods, one that I knew was not supposed to be there, and in the center was a formation of rocks, creating some sort of weird symbol." "What was the symbol?" I asked. "Hard to describe, but like a circle with a line through its center, like that stop symbol, you know. But then there were weird disc-like shapes around that main circle." "Strange," I said. "Strange indeed, but even stranger was the tree in the center. An older tree with bark that looked almost unreal, like aged skin. It was larger than the rest and gave off some sort of menacing aura, so of course I just noped the hell out of there. And, well, that was it. I heard more stories and would have put the whole thing off if it wasn't for my dreams." "Your dreams?" I questioned. "Yes, the same dream over and over. I would wake up in the middle of that clearing when it was late at night, the wind swirling around me as I looked around in a panic, only to see the circle of trees. But that is when the trees began to move, lifting one by one from the ground." "Trees moving," I began, but he cut me off. "Then that's when they would dance, moving around the symbol in a circle, yet none moving too close, their branches swaying in a circular motion, and wood creaking and groaning from the strain. Then the tree at the center slowly grew a pair of long wooden arms, pushing them into the ground to lift its massive body up before dancing in the center, its new arms raised in bliss as it spun and spun and spun and..." "With all respect," I cut him off, "isn't this just a dream?" "Yes, but I had to let you know. I know this isn't the only strange phenomenon in this town, and after these dreams, I kept a keener eye on the woods. That's when I began to notice that the trails never looked the same each day, and that if I remembered vividly where a tree once stood, it would be somewhere else the next day. I'm telling you, man, there's something wrong with the woods here, and it is something wrong with the trees." "We'll take a look into it, sir," I responded before hanging up. Multiple investigations took place at that forest with little results, other than learning more tales of moving trees from locals and hikers in the area. One of our men even took the liberty to chop down one of these trees, yet nothing unordinary happened. Well, nothing except the stump not being able to be found the next day. Case 191, the Umbrella Lady. It is said if you walk down Destiny Lane late at night while skipping the streetlights will turn off one by one, until there is only one left illuminated. And standing under that streetlight is a woman holding a long and dark umbrella, hiding her face. It is said that she can answer any secrets about our world if you ask, but that you can only ask one question. From there, the story differs. Many saying if you talk to her but look at her face, you'll go mad or disappear. But the common theme is that under no circumstances can you look at her face. I actually saw her once. Heading home late one night from the town's bar, trying to drink away all the sights I had seen. When I recalled the stories of the Umbrella Lady, I had a thought. What if I ask her what the hell is going on in this town? so I began to skip down the sidewalk, my eyes darting from stoplight to stoplight looking for any changes. When one by one, the streetlights on the other side of the road flickered off. Then the streetlights on my side of the road flickered off, all except for one. The streetlight above my head shut off, leaving only the light in front of me on, and standing underneath was a woman holding an umbrella. My heart froze, but I did not falter. I took slow and steady steps towards the figure, all while averting my gaze from her face. The air seemed to grow cooler around me with each step, and the wind blew stronger. I could hear what sounded to be faint whispering blowing past me in the breeze, the whispers of dozens of soft voices all too quiet to be heard. I stood in front of the woman now, my eyes on her feet, and that is when she whispered, "What is it that you would like to know?" The voices around me combined into one, into her own. "What is going on here?" I asked. The figure twitched and the voices returned, each one speaking over the next. The wind picked up speed around us as the voices grew more frantic, yet I still could not understand what they were saying. The woman lifted a bony arm to my face and lifted it, forcing me to look directly into her eyes. But she was no woman. In place of her head grew the wooden handle of an umbrella, the same umbrella we all thought she had been holding. The wooden handle had two long eyes that stretched up what could hardly be called her face, and the slit beneath her eyes opened to reveal her final words. "What have you done?" she cried before her body was flown back and into the darkness. As she disappeared into the dark, I could see two impossibly long and dark arms dragging her into the forest. Case 211. So I wasn't the one who worked on this case, but I learned from my boss Max about a strange homeless man in Dust born a while back. Max was a no-nonsense older man who had a big beer belly, yet was still insanely strong. He'd been dealing with this area from before even its first ghost stories, and knew the town like the back of his hand. Well, he told me about 4 years ago there was a string of disappearances all taking place near Dustbourne Woods, next to the Reflection Trail to be exact, so he and another officer were sent to look into the area. They found a suspicious homeless man spouting nonsense in the woods. A ripple in time and space, creating a flaw in our world where the thin film between our dimensions is shattered, the man spouted, his arms swinging crazily from side to side. Max put his hand on his gun, looking at his partner with uncertainty. "It's like a fabric, isn't it? Our world," the man said, moving closer to the two officers. "But the fabric is thin here, thin enough for that door to take shape and cause its chaos." "Why is it always about a damn door?" Max's partner, Ant, short for Anthony, said. "It's always the door. It's always the door. It's always the door." The crazed man began to chant, his eyes nearly bulging from his head. "That door brought them all here. It twisted our world and it brought this tree." Suddenly, the man ran deeper into the forest, the two officers hot on his trail. When he stopped in a strange clearing, where in the center sat a large tree, a tree with a huge face that somewhat resembled a person with a gaping maw. Max looked around and noticed all the trees in the area had human-shaped faces ingrained in their bark. Some of the faces appeared to shout with ecstasy, some with fear, others with pain. Dozens upon dozens of human faces merged into the trees. "What the hell is going on?" Ant said, raising his gun. That is when the man entered the gaping maw of the tree in the center, and as he entered, the mouth closed shut, the crazed man's arm flying towards the officers, now disembodied. Max's knees buckled and he raised his gun as well, unsure of what to do. A rumbling noise was heard behind the two, and the two officers whipped their heads back towards the sound. From the ground sprouted a tree with the face of the crazed man, a wide grin stretching across his face. Case 320. An unidentified girl was found crying in Cherry Woods last fall. It would have been just a normal lost girl case, except for the fact that this girl had purple skin. I was one of the investigators on the case, so I got to speak to the girl, and this was what she said. "Hello," I said. "Can you tell us your name?" "Esley," she said in an unfamiliar accent. "But that was only my name there. Here I have no name. What do you mean? I asked her. In this new world, I am far weaker. My connection is severed, so I am merely a stone on the planet, not who I once was. I did not understand, so I tried a different approach. Can you tell us how you got here? Of that, I am not certain. I was walking in our woods on Zion. It is the name of our planet, when I saw a distortion in the light. I walked closer to examine it. The next thing I knew, I was laying on your cold earth. Zion? I questioned. It is from where I came and where I must return, yet I do not know how. So you came from a different planet and ended up lost in the woods? I asked, almost amused. Woods? It was no woods, it was a flock. A flock? Yes, didn't you see them? They were all the logmen. I've never seen so many logmen before, nor do I know how so many can inhabit one space. Something terrible must have brought them here. What are logmen? I was stunned. Ancient beings of the spirit that rise from the earth, waiting until night to pull themselves from its clutches and roam the world. Yet they stayed put there, hundreds of them in one area. I've never heard of something so phenomenal before. Wait, you mean the trees? I stood up out of bewilderment. Not trees, yet as harmless as one. But for what purpose are they here? She pondered her thoughts out loud. I don't understand. That is a forest and those are trees. What are you talking about? But she ignored me. And it brought me here. No, not only me. Others from different spaces and different times. The girl's purple eyes began to shake in her skull, vibrating, and she lifted her arms slowly. An umbrella? They drowned in the lake. Her voice rose and rose, and I placed my hand on my gun in fear. That is when she began to float softly in the air. Pale arms dragging them under, the demon of old in the tree, luring in its prey. The doppelgangers in the forest, yet not doppels. No, they are them, only in another permutation. I reached for my gun as the chairs and table began to lift from the ground, floating with her in midair. That is when she spoke for the final time. And it all began at the door, the red door. Then suddenly, she vanished. Case 333, the crazy lady of Hillside Elementary. I got called into the only elementary school in this small town. The teacher walked me to her classroom to talk to me, needing to still have her eyes on the children as they could not spare any staff. What happened? I asked her as she took a seat. The children around us crafting various objects, one creating a butterfly made out of paper, another building something with popsicle sticks, a kid playing with toy cars. The teacher, Miss Applehoff, glanced around the room for prying ears before beginning her tale. Well, just this evening at recess, I was watching the kids, you know. They were all running about and just having fun when Charlie over there pulled Amanda's hair. After sorting that out, I really needed a smoke, so I left them there for only 5 minutes and 5 minutes only, okay? Don't judge me. I know I shouldn't have, but I just needed one singular minute to myself. 1 or 5? I whispered. She shot me a look, but then continued. Well, when I got back, the children were huddled in a circle, all sitting crisscross and well-behaved. Unbelievable, I said sarcastically. It was unbelievable. If you know these kids, you'd know how rowdy and impossible they are to handle. Getting them to sit still for even a second is a miracle in itself. As if to confirm, I heard a little girl scream as her hair was pulled by a kid holding scissors. I just need a piece of it for my doll, the girl with the scissors said. Knock it off, Miss Applehoff demanded, and the girl laughed before running away. Anyway, Miss Applehoff dusted herself off. In the middle of their little circle was an old woman, smiling and talking to the children. She had wrinkles on top of wrinkles, looked to be over 80 years old, yet here she was, on school grounds unauthorized, talking to the children. I walked up to the group of kids, she continued, and I heard her telling them a story. For some reason, I was drawn to the woman, my vision focused on her. I couldn't quite make out what she was saying, as if I were in a trance. That is when she concluded her story, stood up, and suddenly, I was no longer unable to move. I saw it before, that red door, a kid named Charlie said as the woman stood. That's when her eyes shot towards the boy and she grabbed him by his shoulder, leaning in inches from his face. And what did you do? Did you enter? The woman pressed him. I just thought it was cool and ran away. Charlie shrugged her off. That's when the woman's whole demeanor changed. An anger I've never seen before entered her eyes, and her body began to twitch in rage as she gripped Charlie tighter and tighter until he began to squirm, then scream. You were supposed to enter the door. You were supposed to enter the door. You were supposed to enter the door. She screamed it over and over and over again, her face growing red, saliva hitting the boy's face, and her eyes nearly bulging out of their sockets. That's when I took action, throwing the woman off of Charlie and screaming for her to leave. She gave one last hate-filled look at Charlie before turning away, walking into the woods. And you haven't seen her since? I asked. No. And I've been scanning the tree line every damn minute, but she hasn't come back. What did she say to the kids? Well, she told them a bunch of stories, but all the same kind. About a door in the forest, and every time in the story, a little boy or girl would come across it in some magical way, and then go inside. It seems to all start with the door, I whispered. I remember hearing that story too, growing up, Miss Applehoff said, rising from her seat. In fact, I even think we have a book of the story here. And with some effort, she lifted an aged book from her shelf. Take a look, she said, handing the book towards me. The book was aged and brown and smelled of mildew, but I opened it anyway, reading the first story, and it basically went like this. A boy was playing in the forest when he saw a blue orb of light appear before him, then another further into the forest, then another. So he followed the trail, sort of like a will of wisps. The orbs led him to a clearing where the trees seemed alive and the moon shone brightest, and in the center of that clearing was a door, a red door. So he reached out to open the door, and inside was... The story would always end there, never stating what was inside the door. I flipped through the book looking at story after story, all ending in the same result. The book was illustrated with artwork of the forest and children drawn in a 1990s cartoonish style. And the door, it was a simple red door, but with a marvelous golden frame standing lonesome in the forest. That is when I flipped to the last page to read the last story, and drawn on that page was a boy that looked very familiar, so I read the story. It was school time, and a strange man visited today, yet the boy did not mind. All he cared about was his playtime. As he chased his classmates and played with cars, he glanced out the window to see an old woman, the old woman that told him stories today. She beaconed him over with a finger and a smile, so the boy slipped away from the classroom as his teacher and peers were distracted. The boy headed outside and took the lady by the hand, and she smiled as they walked into the forest. They walked, and they walked until he saw it again. A door, a red door, standing alone in the woods. How lonely it must be, the boy thought. How foolish he had been to leave without going inside. But this time the boy reached out to the door, the woman now gone, perhaps never even existing, and he pulled on the gold handle, his hands shaking in excitement. Then, the boy opened the door and went inside, and inside was... I scanned the classroom but saw no signs of Charlie. "Where's Charlie?" I cried, rising from my seat, and Miss Applehoff's eyes immediately went wide. We ran outside calling his name, and the police were called to help search, but he was never found again. When I went to grab the book as evidence, I could not find it no matter where I looked. It had simply vanished. These are just a few of my cases, most involving that damn door. I'll update with more soon.